base. Cost me more. They can't hear us.
Thank God. It's a shit show. Right. Speaking of shit show, go.
It is the Shooting the Shit show. And we are the shitheads as usual. Or I'm not sure. Or are the audience the shitheads? Groupies.
No, they're the shitters.
The shitters. Anyway, this is Aussie Craft Distillers Shooting the Shits. Hello, I'm Luke. And that's Crafty. That's Todd. And this is Dave from That Boutique-y Whisky Company. How you doing?
Hello, Dave.
Good evening, Australia. Good evening, Australia.
Hello.
Wake up, everyone. Dave is in the house. Dave is in the house.
Dave is in the house.
Are you joining us for a breakfast whiskey? Or is it a lunch whiskey?
No, it's an evening whiskey.
It's going to be rude not to.
Yeah, you've got to.
I'm kind of surrounded by whiskey. This is the Boutique-y Whisky office, and just about everything's up here, I think. Yeah.
He's got an office. Jesus.
Yeah, I've just got a shed.
Well, it was my son's bedroom, so.
The joy of when they move out, hey? Spare spaces in the house.
Joyous. Yeah, it is joyous.
That's why I could never move home. My mum moved into my bedroom the day I moved out, and that was it.
I remember those days of the kids leaving home.
And then coming back.
And then coming back. I used to have the best man cave. No
That's what Todd did. He built a man cave after they left, and he just finished. He was super proud, and he was filming from his man cave. And then a week later,
that was great.
He lost it.
Yeah. And the other one left. That was going to be the gymnasium. Now I'm just a big fat bastard.
The kids saw that the rooms were nicer now, so they decided to come back.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I had them all back for a while, and it was chaos in here, from 3 little ones to 3 adults, extra adults in the house, plus 2 huge dogs. But they've all gone again now, and I've turned this bedroom into all the bedrooms are full of whiskey now. But
oh, what a problem!
No problem.
Yeah.
You can't really see it, but behind me, I've got a nice little collection of whiskey and gin and whatnot.
Yeah, yeah.
Just sort of
there we are.
visible there in the background.
So you can't really see, but behind me, I've got a couple of empty boxes, just so it looks like I've got whiskey.
You need to extend that shelf, Todd.
Yeah, it's pretty pathetic, Todd.
Well, we did have one, but it fell off the wall.
Like
So.
Yeah.
I reckon he's just painted it. That's all it is, just the painting.
He just stole some boxes from outside Dan Murphy's.
So,
how many whiskeys do you reckon you've got throughout your house?
Oh, several hundred.
Shit. That's a good collection.
Several hundred. I think I started putting it all up on Whiskey Base, and I think in the work whiskey collection behind me there's about 90. I think there's more, because there's the bottom half of that cabinet is all full of cask samples, so smaller bottles, so not full bottles. And I probably haven't put the new ones on yet, and certainly downstairs unopened. I think the upstairs collection's about 100. That's the whiskey that I've just overbought over the years since.
There's no such thing as overbuying whiskey.
Well, no, I used to buy 2 or 3, drink one and keep one and swap one, sort of thing. That was the idea. And probably just ran away with me at times, and then you start working. In fact, for a long time, I couldn't even find my own whiskey, and I'm still finding my own whiskey that, oh bloody hell, I didn't know I bought that, when I'm clearing things out, because working in the industry, all of a sudden you get a huge collection, especially with the amount of whiskey that we put out over the last 10 years. There's a lot of whiskey that we put out, and most of it comes here first, and certainly I get generally one of everything. Yeah.
Oh, what a problem!
we had
Questions are coming in already.
Yeah.
we had 3 weeks ago, Ian Croucher from North Star,
yeah,
North Star Spirits in Australia, and I've known Ian for years through Facebook, but we've never we've never actually met face to face, right? So I was really looking forward to it, because I like Ian. And so we get together and he goes, Crafty, he goes, you're taller than I thought. And I go, Ian, you're shorter than I thought. But he did a class, right? And personally, I don't like the term masterclass. I find it very...
I hate it as well. Yeah.
And Ian was very much like that, not a masterclass. It was just telling stories and conversation. It was really, really good, wasn't it? We had a lot of fun. And it just reinforces there's a lot of eccentric people in this industry too, which I really like. A lot of creative people.
Yeah. I mean, I don't like calling them master classes because I'm not a master of anything. I'm just, I just fell into the right place, right time, and just love people, love whiskey, love telling stories. It's just a tasting, simple as that. Guided tasting, but even then, I'm only there to tell stories. You can make your own minds up about the whiskey. I do like putting tastings together blind. Like I always used to take the labels off of all the bottles and make custom labels for the club or for the place that I'm going to do the tasting, and just label them 1 to 6 or whatever I was doing, 1 to 7, 1 to 6, and just letting people I'm never out to catch anybody out. That's not what I'm about at all. It's all about just removing those preconceptions so you can slip in something that's really way out there. And I do it every time. I slip in something that they wouldn't expect. See, and I did that. I remember doing it the first time. I did it with the Glasgow Whisky Club, and I slipped in an English whiskey just for a giggle at number 4. And Jesus, the uproar that happened when I told them what it was. There was like, no one's bought an English whiskey in here. And they still remind me about it today. They loved it. They really did love it. And I was talking to the distiller at the time, said, might get lynched here. And just our first English whiskey company release a 5-year-old that slipped it in at number 4 for them after teasing them. I started off with a nice Glaswegian grain. I'm pretty certain it was a Strathclyde. It might have been a Port Dundas, I can't remember. But number 3 was a beautiful 21-year-old Timor, and they loved it. And I slipped this English whiskey in, which was a 5-year-old, and it was a marriage of 3 casks. There's a little bit of smoke in there. There was a little bit of sherry in there, and it just married together beautifully. It was such a great whiskey just for 5 years old, and people were thinking it was sort of 10 to 18 years old, and they were a few Scottish distilleries, and then I told them that it was from the English Whisky Company. So there's this uproar, so I just grabbed my coat and said, right, I'm off, and went to walk out the door. I did go back and stayed for the other 2, but they ribbed me about it every time.
It's interesting, young whiskies. People have preconceived ideas, particularly with Scotch, that Scotch, it's got to be at least 8 years, and it's only just a junior at that point, right? Some of the young 4-year-olds, 5-year-olds Scottish whiskies are stunning, absolutely stunning, and they're reminiscent in some ways to there's a lot of Australian whiskies which is young and bright and fresh and vibrant, and I think people that get hung up on age, it's to their detriment. It really is.
Marketing guys for you again, isn't it? It's those marketing guys. They ended up, I remember not so long ago, it really wasn't that long ago, that were big adverts in whiskey magazines, age, because the Scotch whiskey industry had so much old stock.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden it all ran out, and now the next thing was no age statement, NAS, and it doesn't need a number. And it wasn't, it's just looking last month's whiskey magazine, and there's this thing, everything's got an age, and the next we've run out of age stock, so now we don't. Age is just a number. We don't worry about it anymore. And if you look back a little bit further, 5 years was an old whiskey, 8 years was an extra old whiskey. Those whiskies from the 60s and 70s, 8-year-old was a extra old if it's put on the label. 50s, I mean, you see those. It doesn't need to be old. It's all about the wood. Obviously, it's today in Scotland, there's refill bourbon is common, and we do need a little bit more time in refill bourbon. Not just refill, but refill. It's a lot longer. Whereas we've just released a collection of Australian whiskies.
Yep.
And a second release of Australian whiskies over here, and we had those cask samples on the desks, and they were being, there was a load of old scotches on the desk at the same time, and every one of these 2 to 5 year old Australian whiskies stood up better than these old Scotch whiskies to us on our palate. They really did stand up, which is why we put another collection of Australian whiskies out there. Just stunning whiskies, but people have this preconception that it's not Scotch. It's only 2 years old. We can't call it a whiskey over here.
Yep.
Which annoys me immensely. And because you're not a whiskey maker then, because whiskey's made in the warehouse.
Yeah. Look, I'll tell you a story. So Martin Pye from Riverbourne, right? He was on your first collection. So anyway, Martin and I did a online virtual tasting in Germany. And this was, 3 months ago, whatever it was. I can't even remember now, right? Anyway, it was 2:00 in the morning. And so I'm going to bed, and my wife goes, you're tasting on this morning. And I go, no, it's tomorrow. And she goes, no, it's tonight. And I went, oh, shit, okay, all right, I better ring Marty. So 1:00 in the morning, I wake up, and I ring Marty. I don't know why, but I didn't think he'd answer, but he answers, and he goes, hello? It's like he's expecting a call, right? And I go, Marty, it's tonight. And he goes, no, it's tomorrow. And I go, no, it's tonight. And he goes, oh, shit. So he jumps out of bed, right? So he comes, I'm at the shed at my distillery. He's at his house, which is his distillery's next door. Anyway, he gets up, and he's got long hair, and his long hair, he looked like Woozle Gummidge. His hair was just, it was like that, right?
Yeah.
It was like he'd touched one of those static devices. And then behind him, it was in his lounge. Behind him was an ironing board, just directly. So we came on screen, and they went through Scotch, Australian. So Craftworks and Riverbourne, and the feedback was overwhelming. Right? They really struggled to get their head around why it wasn't hot, and why did it have so much color, and why did it have so much flavor, and why did it have so much complexity. They just struggled with it because of the age. And I said, well, mine's 3 years and Marty's is 4 years. And they go, but it should be almost clear. It should have no flavor. It should be new makey. And we go, well, that's Australia. That's how we make our whiskies.
Yeah, that's what I've been trying to get across while taking out this Australian series. These are only 2 years old. We bottled two 2-year-olds from Martin Pye. And the second one that we've got is, both of them have been bloody excellent. The second one is a peated one, and it's just delicious. But the color, it's because you have this access to great casks. You've got a great wine industry, a sherry industry, a port industry. You make it all in Australia, and you get that color from 2-year-old whiskey, which is where we're using old casks.
Yeah. Yeah,
certainly the stuff that independent bottlers often get offered over here. So the Scotch is basically fillings. Yeah, that's what the market is for Scotch over here. Most distilleries are what's known in the trade as fillings because it's going to blending stock, so it's going to warehouses. Yeah,
right.
It's pretty light. It needs a bit of age, or it needs finishing, and putting into a sherry cask or something, but you don't need to do that because you're going straight into great wood, and everything that we bottled hasn't been finished. It's either full term in an Australian sherry or tawny cask, or it's quite
different. We do have a lot of flexibility, and do you think that would ever change?
You drink
for you? Do you think Scotland would change the rules to allow a bit more flexibility into things?
I think Scotch whiskey. I mean, Scotch whiskey does Scotch whiskey great, and still most of the world drinks blended Scotch whiskey. Simple as that. You know, most people do not drink whiskey out of a Glencairn.
Yeah.
You know, most people drink it out of a rocks glass or a highball glass. That's the way of the world. You know, when I worked in the Far East, I never saw anybody drinking out of a wine glass or anything like that. It was tumblers and highball glasses. You ordered whiskey by the bottle. You had a bottle of whiskey on the table. It was always a blended whiskey. If you had some money, it was a Johnny Walker Black Label or a Chivas 12-year-old. If you didn't, it was a local Thai whiskies, which was okay. There's one, you know, the cheap blends. Like a bucket of ice, a bottle of soda, and a bottle of Coke, and everyone just did it how they wanted. And that's how people drank whiskey. Simple as that. Never buy the dram, buy the bottle. And that is the way of the world in a lot of places. It's only, you know, recently, I guess fairly recently, that people started appreciating whiskey. Whiskey's just a drink. Will things change in Scotland? No, I don't think so much. So, I mean, we have got tequila casks now in Scotland, which blows my mind. They're very traditional tequila casks in Scotland.
That's the power of Diageo, though, isn't it?
But not cider.
Yeah.
Just what?
That's one of the jokes that I have on my cellar door. So I talk about Scotch and you know how they've basically restricted can only use barrels which have been historically used, right? And I say, mate, I could go into a Tabasco sauce green curry sherry cask if I wanted to. There's nothing to stop me from doing that. And they
Me.
Yeah. I don't know. Put a curry in it.
No, I can't imagine there's a tasty whiskey.
I've tried the is it a Danish guy who matured some Islay whiskey? I think it was Bruichladdich or Bunna or something like that. He put it in an ex-herring cask.
Oh, I heard about that.
And called it fishki, yeah, not whiskey.
Yeah.
Oh no!
And how would you describe it?
It wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be.
But that's not a high bar to jump over.
Sorry,
that's not a high bar to jump over.
Yeah, talk about Bogan burnout.
Oh God! Talk about things that. Well, no, that was as bad as I thought it would be.
Yeah, that was pretty bad. That one.
Our resident mad scientist.
Sorry, Peter.
You'd know Peter Bignell, wouldn't you, Dave?
I do know Peter. Yeah, he's an amazing personality.
Mad professor.
Yeah. He revels in doing crazy shit.
Shit being the operative word.
Shit being the operative word in some cases. I mean, he's got the one that's
holy shit
grain that's been malted with sheep shit.
Yeah, that's dreadful.
Smoked sheep shit. Yep.
It's delicious.
I
like it.
It's not to my taste.
It's got a bit of a lanolin thing going on.
It's very earthy.
Yeah, definitely earthy.
I tasted some sheep shit malt from Iceland, and it was one of the few whiskies I've had to spit out. I mean, why would you do that? I mean, it must be an acquired taste, or maybe a local taste over there where they use it that fuel to smoke.
Yeah, maybe
and seafood, but it was just like
Peter does this one that is just the smokiest thing you will ever find. It's called Bogan Burnout. Although, what was the other one?
No, it's Bogan Burnout, but we reckon he burnt rubber tires. I'm convinced he smoked the malt with rubber tires.
He sort of led me to believe that myself when I was talking to him at a show. That's so good. So the Iceland one was flocky.
The Icelandic one was flocky, yes, it was indeed. Yeah, Bogan's Burnout one is very similar to this Austrian whiskey that we bottled a little while ago from Broga, a little Austrian distillery. And they throw the husks, after malting the barley, they throw all the husks in the mash as well. So it gets overly peated and it is all full of those sort of rubber tire smoke.
Those guys step in here at this point since I'm still waiting to get a drink.
We haven't had a drink.
What's everyone drinking tonight?
All right, I'll go first because mine's special.
Oh, is it special? Special person needs a special whiskey. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I keep forgetting the camera's here. Yeah, look there.
With the big light on it.
Yeah. All right. Okay. All right. Go to the light. Yeah. So this is
That's a very light whiskey.
My new mate. But this was not distilled on my still. This was distilled on a huge pot column still at Austria Distillers, which I did yesterday. So the first time I've ever been on a pot column still. I was there with a guy called Ian, the head distiller, Ken, head brewer, and what it was is I sent 2 tons of red gum smoked malt. So Voyager Craft red gum smoked malt, and Ken brewed it up, and we ran it through the still yesterday, and very, very interesting. So that's going into bourbon barrels. That's actually going to mature at Austria Distillers for a couple of years, and I'm going to use it as base stock down the track, blend it off with some craft works, and see what we get. Now, what does it taste like?
It's really interesting. You can certainly get a real smokiness in there.
Good. So
it's using
smoky.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
very
cool,
smoky.
Cool.
But not overpowering medicinal smoke. It's actual like barbecue smoke.
Cool.
Because
that's using the smoked malt with shavings from Youngie, isn't it?
Oh man, that's changed from yesterday. It's so much more smoky. We actually, when we cut it, Dave, I did a hearts cut, and then I was sort of getting into faints territory, but I thought it's not tasting of wet cardboard. It doesn't have those aromas or anything. And it was really tasty, had some real meatiness to it. So I went deeper and did a second cut. And then this morning, we back blended some of that back into the hearts, and it just gave it a bit more robustness. That's really tasty.
And that's 69%.
That would bring the smoke up, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Because you're chasing all the smoke at the end and all the earthy note. And it's oily. It's really, really oily. They ferment on the grain. First time I've ever done ferment on the grain. So
good choice of whiskeys, Joshua.
Yeah.
Nice one.
Gospel salt, gospel. Anyway, that's what I'm drinking to start with, and then I'm going to follow up with an Austria. They're releasing their very first whiskies, and this is a sample which is called Pink Whiskey, and it does have a pinky hue. It's a very interesting whiskey. It's so one of the things here, Dave. Floral. Yeah, it's one of the things here. I believe, and others believe, that there's so many different styles of Australian whiskey getting made now, whereas previously it was people were trained in Tasmania, trained in the Tasmanian way of making whiskies, and that's now evolved over the years. I mean, obviously previously you had Cam Symes and David Vitale and Starwood and others, and Ian Smith from Tin Shed. But now there's just this huge diversity of flavors, whiskey flavors. You guys are hitting the coming out of the starting gates with just absolutely cracking, really interesting whiskeys. Mick from Imbue Distillery just released.
Yeah. But that's really interesting. It's so smooth, and that's at cask strength. That's 62.1.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
That's
the pink.
Awesome.
Anyway, so that's what we're drinking.
Yeah. So I can't promise that there will be any left. Sorry, Todd.
Yeah.
That'll be right.
As usual, he says.
That'll be right. Yeah. Throw.
All I can say is just watch this space for future episodes.
Yeah, because he's racking them up now. I bring him in and he racks them up. So he could be racking up some samples in the background that we don't even know about. Never thought about that.
Maybe not.
Maybe not.
He's got to have some benefit to doing that.
Dave, what's in your glass, mate?
Well, I've just grabbed a bottle of Return to Oz. So this is the Florio.
Oh, yeah. Gareth and Angela, beautiful.
Awesome.
I just love them. They're such lovely people. The first batch was superb. This is their peated one. So this is just 3 years old, and it's from a sherry. This is from an Australian sherry, an Apara.
Apara? Yep. Yeah, we can't call it sherry now.
No.
So
this is absolutely stunning. So I'm going to pour a breakfast ram there.
Awesome. Let's put a link for everyone playing at home into the chat.
I'll just text you. You're on. Never thought about that.
It's on its way to Australia, I believe, at the moment.
Cool.
So there is some coming back. Yeah, the whole series has been superb. But I really do love Gareth and Angela. Just such lovely people. And we spent like a morning like this shooting the shit with them, chatting about what they do. And they're just such lovely people, and the whiskey's been superb. Yeah, I love what they do.
No, they're good friends of Craftworks. One of my collabs, my indie bottlings, which is a collab, was called Billy Miles. So back in the day, in the early days, they used to just fill 2 casks at a time, and you'd know the story. They name them.
Yes,
that's my Billy Miles.
This one's Marianne Watkins. This one,
Marianne Watkins. Mine was Billie Holiday and Miles Davis. I named them Billie Holiday and Miles Davis. And when they married together, it's beautiful. I loved it. Absolutely
loved the label. It. Yeah, great label.
Yeah, no, thank you. A lot of fun. And Gareth and Angela are just people. Just you can ring them up at any time, all right? And I mean, sometimes, Gareth will go, Crafty, just tone it down, eh? Just shut up a bit, eh? Hey, just bring it back down.
Many people tell you that, though.
Yeah, true. Yeah, but it's not about me.
No. Todd, what's in your glass?
Because we're talking to Boutique-y Whisky, I decided this is a good enough time to open up this bottle.
Oh, the cheek.
Oh, wow.
That's just fun.
Yeah. There may. Oh, you've got some there, bugger.
Is that the 12-year-old?
That's the 12-year-old.
The Dag 12-year-old. Yep.
Is it the exclusive for Australia?
I think it is.
I believe it was. There was a limit of one bottle each, I think. So those of us that got them were pretty happy.
Yeah, we did a mating pair, I think, 2 12-year-olds, Tobermory, and they're both from the same year, Tobermory and Allergic. So, they do peated runs for half the year and unpeated for the other half. And so these 2 casks sort of married together nicely. And they were both sherry cask finished, I think, as well.
Yeah, I believe so.
Or sherry cask matured.
I just love the artwork. I'm sorry. Yeah.
So,
well, actually, just
very tasty. What it is.
Let's talk about that. Then,
the artwork.
Because artwork obviously makes up a huge part of your brand. And looking at the website there,
half of the tastes in the artwork.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, it puts a smile on your face, right? Yeah. So it sets you up to have a good dram, basically. That's what I think.
So everyone should jump onto the website and then go to the Boutique-y Whiskies menu item. And there is a very long list. I'm still scrolling of of whiskies and labels.
Who's got the artwork, the actual artwork? Does Emily keep it or do you purchase it, or how does it work?
The original pencil sketches. There was a story online a little while ago when in fact she was just in the last whiskey magazine as well, talking to her. There was an interview with her, but yes, it all starts with a pencil sketch. So she must have all of those, and then once it's agreed, she colours it. It's scanned and digitized and coloured and comes back. There's a little bit of back and forth, very little to be honest.
Yeah,
mainly just about brightening things up, making it less brown. We had this series. We had a phase where all of our labels were quite brown, and we tried to change that and brighten them up a bit. They were getting a bit too brown. I've just looked at the label register. Now our website is hopelessly out of date. I just couldn't keep up. We do have, with the latest baseball card releases.
We're just looking at it on screen. That's the American series just come out, the USA series.
Yeah. We have 250. I think. Well, I didn't count all of the distilleries that we'd bottled before as baseball cards as well, because we'd already bottled a batch of Copperworks and Few and a few of the other American whiskies. But I reckon we've got over 215 unique labels now that Emily has drawn, because most of the label generally stays the same for the Scottish distilleries. Every label tells a story. We have changed a few over the years. We do these series now. So we did a record series where we changed all of the standard labels into a riff on the original one slightly. But yeah, every label tells a story. We like to tell stories, and in the Scotch whiskies, that's fairly easy because there's lots and lots of history going back with Scotland, and we can pick some obscure references from some of the Scottish labels. With the New World distilleries that we've been bottling, we like to talk to the distillers and get some stories from them.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, we decided we'd go with a vintage baseball card series for this.
So cool, Dave. It is just so cool.
So that came out.
It's art. It's just art.
Yeah, they're just
very collectible.
The distillers were really up for that. We asked them if they'd be interested in being part of this, a baseball theme. And they all sent their pictures. Emily had them in different poses. I mean, some of them really went to town and got pictures of them holding baseball bats and everything. Not just one picture. They sent a collection of pictures. They all chose their colours. And anything that they wanted to put on little badges or symbols on their uniforms, awesome. And then give them something idiosyncratic with either the distillery or with the whiskey sort of thing. Yeah. And they've all balanced.
Yeah, it is stunning. Wow, like I was saying to you offline, Dave, I have a massive amount of respect and pay homage to Boutique-y and the labels and the designs and the whiskey. And I put a lot of credence in art, and you guys massively influenced me and gave me the confidence to try something different from an artistic standpoint. And yeah, I keep coming back to you look at your bottles, it makes you smile. What?
Just look the other way a little bit. I don't want you talking to my ear.
I keep sorry. Just give me one that hangs on my head and make it a lot easier, I'll tell you.
No, it wouldn't. Everyone would get sick.
But yeah, it's the whole thing of the unboxing, isn't it? It's the experiential thing of, and people look at it and they appreciate it for what it is. So by the time they're actually putting the liquid in the glass, they're ready to go. They're in the right frame of mind. I firmly believe that.
Yeah, when we first came onto the scene just over 10 years ago, there was whiskey was dull looking. It was all very, very standard. And that's one of the things we wanted to walk away from is whiskey should be fun. And there was very few labels with any color on it. It was all about the age statement. And yeah, we wanted a bit of fun. When you look at the whiskey shops now and the new releases, even Diageo with all their special releases have lots of color and color. In fact, I was introduced to, hey, look a bit like a boutique-y label now. Just a little dig in the ribs for them. But yeah, everyone's got a boutique-y label these days.
Trendsetters should have patented that.
That's why we've been evolving. We've been trying to change. That's why the baseball card series came out. Our latest, the 10th birthday ones, we let Emily take charge completely of our birthday scotches. So we said it's down to her. We want her to do her style because she's really a screen print designer.
Yeah, right.
Got a great series of prints. If you look on her online shop, Emily Chappell, the artist or whatever it is, she does a lot of screen printing, and she's got a little side cover called Mutant Mule, and I should have had a Mutant Mule t-shirt on because I just love everything about Mutant Mule. It's these three-eyed beasts, and we just let her have a go at the fibers, do what she wanted to do, and they came out amazing. I must admit, they are screen prints. They're just one of my favorite. The five are my favorite labels. She played a riff on the original labels and just did them in her style, how she would print them. Yeah.
It's super, super, super cool. So, does she like whiskey?
Emily does. Yeah, she I've invited her to a couple of shows. When I'm up in Scotland, I invite her to every show that I'm going to. She's always welcome. People always want to come and see her, and people get her to sign bottles. I invited her down for the London show a few years ago when the theme for the big London show was whiskey and art. We set up a big store. We had posters made, of the labels, or bigger cards that Emily was signing. Yeah, she loved it. She absolutely loved it when she came down. I mean, is she a whiskey geek? No, but she loves a whiskey. But she loves all the stories, and she loves still loves working with us after 10 years, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, I reckon she's got a good gig.
She's a nice person.
Yeah, I was just going to say, so come back to the actual whiskey then. So how do you go about getting hold of the whiskey? So you're dealing with lots of different distilleries. So is that just from relationships, building relationships and going from there?
Yeah, I mean, certainly at the beginning it was quite difficult. Persuading New World distillers to part with a cask, because who the bloody hell are you? And Scotch whiskey was a little bit easier. Certainly when we first started, it's almost impossible at the moment. I mean, the price of whiskey, it's just it's really, really tough out there for independent bottlers at the moment. The price of spirit just shooting. It was a little bit easier for us. Scotch whiskey is unique, and it's born on the back of blending, blended Scotch whiskey. So there are whiskey brokers, and most distilleries are filling casks for fillings for the blended Scotch whiskey industry, and so they can be picked up, or they could be picked up back in the day at a reasonable price, and you could bottle them. And that's what we did as Boutique-y. We were finding these sort of really nice casks in the pick of the fillings and thinking, we could do something with this, and we'll release it as a Boutique-y release, generally straight as it was. We never said single cask in the day. We never said cask strength. It wasn't important to us. We're whiskey geeks. It is what we bottled at the time. So if we put a bucket of 15-year-old and a 10-year-old, and it tasted so much better, it's so much better with than the parts. Why wouldn't we do that as an independent bottler? Because you're only remembered for your last bottling.
Yeah.
And so that's what we did. Now we do tell you if it's cask strength. We have released more at cask strength now, natural cask strength, really because people have asking for it. In fact, when we first started, we didn't even have an age statement. We never even told you how old it was. It wasn't important. It was really about, we're an independent bottler and we think this is great, and get some trust into us. We have this sort of mentality within the team as wherever we try something new, whenever we're at a whiskey show, we're looking for new distilleries. We're looking at trying something new. My old whiskey blog was called Whiskey Discovery. Sam's old whiskey blog, Sam Simmons, our head of whiskey, was, Dr. Whiskey. It was always about the next one.
Yep.
And we have this sort of mentality of when we tried something, we want to share it immediately with the team, saying, you've got to try this. This is, and Felix, our cask buyer, is exactly that. Oh, I went to this distillery at the weekend. Dave, you would have loved it. You've got to try it. I'll get some in the post to you. This is fantastic. We have this. We send a buyer out now to do these trips. But whenever we're whiskey,
what an awful job that is.
Yeah, terrible.
Awful.
How do you win that gig? A paid job, paid whiskey.
It's an easier job for him now than it would have been a few years ago. That's for sure, because lots of people have heard about Boutique-y whiskey, and it is a little marketing. It is a sort of marketing way of getting your whiskey into markets that no one would have heard of. I mean, we bottled a South African whiskey not so long ago. Yeah. We had that in America. We had that in China. It's in Australia.
Wow.
It's all of a sudden whiskey geeks now know about, because you couldn't buy 3 ships, or very rarely could you see 3 ships, even over here. And they do make some really lovely whiskey, and certainly Australian whiskey. Very little of it gets this far across the channel, across the world, ponds. Very little of it. Star would have been waving the flag for some time over here. Yep. That's for sure. We have a little bit of Overeem come over a few years ago. We've had a little bit of lime burners come over, but it was always small batch. Bakery Hill, just
Bakery Hill. Yeah. That was over there for a while too, wasn't it?
Yeah. But there's always not much of it. Always a little bit expensive.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, it's on par with what it is over in Australia as well, I believe. Yeah.
Oh, look, we still pay the Australia tax. in Australia.
we're about to hit $100 a litre of pure alcohol. I think in August, because it's CPI adjusted, and I think we're second or third highest in the world for excise tax. I want to have a countdown clock, right? Because I'm talking to other distillers, and I brought it up at the conference saying we should have a big countdown clock going, like a New Year's Eve clock, 10, 9, 8, $100. Because $100 from a marketing standpoint and trying to get the message out there to consumers, that's a big amount when you say we pay $100 tax, right? And they go, they can relate to $100. They can't relate to $97.58, but they can relate to $100.
No.
On a litre of pure alcohol.
Pure alcohol,
not even 50% in a 700ml bottle.
Yeah. So you're pushing about almost, could potentially be $30 a bottle tax.
So that's your tax going up. Is $100 per litre of pure alcohol. That's just your tax.
Yeah.
Your duty.
Yeah. Your duty. Yeah.
I think ours is just going up to £30 over here in August. It's been $28.74 for a long time. It's going up to 10% a litre of pure alcohol, which is it's and then we've got sales tax on top of that as well, the VAT and stuff like that. But
tax,
pushing it all up.
You have to talk to Jonathan, Craig. Crafty.
I think Todd or I can do that clock.
It must be a different Todd, because it's definitely not this little black duck.
Todd's got a new skill.
You got a new skill, Todd.
Let's throw him under the bus, see if he can explain what he's going to do.
What's your technical way of doing that?
Yeah, how do you put a clock together, Todd? So I don't know if you've seen any of our podcasts, Dave, but we have a session which we call Throw Todd Under the Bus. And so what we do is Todd gets to ask some specific questions, but what tends to happen is we ask all the questions. So when it's throw Todd under the bus, he's there like, well, fuck, you've asked all the questions. What am I going to do? So we're actually getting squeezy toys, stress balls, but they're not stress balls, they're stress buses. And it's going to be Todd's throw Todd under the bus.
I'm just negotiating with the printer at the moment if we can get Todd's face on the bottom of the bus with us on top of the bus.
Yeah.
And we're just trying to work out the artwork for that. But that little bit of fun looks like this.
And now it's time for Throw the Todd Under the Bus.
I think we should do it now. Oh, what's that? What the hell is that?
Look, I don't know why his name's Doofus. That's the question you're going to ask.
This is why.
I know.
Oh,
he lives up to those quite well.
That was a shocker.
It's even better now that I've cropped it.
Oh, look at that.
Enlarged it.
Oh, that's horrible. That'll never come out on a T-shirt, all right? I'm telling you.
Oh, there's a thought. Maybe we can get that along the back of the bus.
Look, you just
I know. It would be a good idea, wouldn't it?
Right, that was a great stalling tactic. So what are your questions? Because we're not that far into the session tonight. So you should be loaded to the gunnels with questions, Todd.
Loaded to the gunnels with questions. First question. How can I get a job with a reputable distillery? Preferably one that pays. That would be great.
Oh, he's a bit punchy tonight, isn't he? He's a little bit punchy.
Okay, so the first question is one that came in really early on. I did put it up, but it sort of wasn't quite the right time. So this is actually a little bit of help from Dave Taylor.
Okay, right. Yeah.
What's your standout whiskey of the year?
Oh, so far, crikey. What have I? Just having a quick look at what I've tasted this year.
That would be on the list.
Seriously, that was last year, really. All of this year, I can't really tell you about at the moment.
All right,
last year would be relatively good, but,
Yeah,
last year for you. It's probably this year for us.
Yeah, good.
Yeah,
Like
the whole of our Australian series, I think, has been real big standouts for me. The Chief's Son, lightly peated, I think that's just a beautiful, beautiful whiskey. The Launceston, which is very much typically Tasmanian, that's just a refill bourbon barrel, but for a 5-year-old, it's absolutely beautiful whiskey. And this, like I say, this Fleuriot, is that how you call it?
Fleuriot, yeah.
I always want to go Fleuriot, but 65% we bowled this at natural cask strength, and it is just beautiful. It just so much. Other whiskies I've really been blown away with by Germany. I think some of the small distilleries in Germany, they're making some amazing whiskey, and it's all down to the quality of the wood that they're using.
Yep.
So this little distillery called
St.
the brand is called Elsburn.
Oh,
Hercynian Distillers, I think they're called, and they have a number of different brands, but they only use new sherry casks, wine casks, and they only use them once, and the quality of the whiskey is absolutely beautiful. I could stick them in a blind tasting alongside some big old space ciders, and nobody would know. They would believe me that was a 20-year-old Glenfarclas or something like that. They would believe it, and it was a 5-year-old. And what the Nordics are doing, Sweden and Finland in particular, the rye whiskies coming out of Finland, Kiro, Helsinki distillers, I've been blown away with every time. Helsinki, seriously good stuff. And Kiro, there's 100% malted rye, which is fabulous. It's downstairs in my cabinet. I bought some of there. They've got some.
So not the herring.
Not the herring. No, that was a number of years ago. That was a long time ago now. That was back in 2014. I think I tasted that. Yeah.
So that was top of the list of 2014, though.
That was the top of the list back then. Yeah, the next series that we have, got. There is a very old Glengarry in there, and I'm rather attached to the Glengarry, especially old school Glengarry when they used to floor malt, and they used to have a little bit of peat in there. It just brings a little tear to your eye when you taste that sort of stuff. It does make me very, very attached to old school Glengarry, so that's probably my highlight of the year this year of new whiskies tasted.
How many whiskies do you reckon you taste in a year?
When I was writing a whiskey blog before I started working full time in the industry, about 400 new whiskies a year.
Wow.
Jesus.
Yeah. So that was, I was at every whiskey show. Because I was a whiskey blogger, lots of stuff was being sent to me. A whiskey club, so we ran a whiskey club. So yeah, it was definitely over 400 releases, new whiskies a year. Nowadays, probably a little bit less. I mean, what we're releasing these days, probably about not so much these days, but of new whiskies. I mean, everything is boutique-y is a new whiskey, that's for sure. And we've certainly done a few over the last couple of years, but I don't think we've got anywhere as close as 400 a year now. Yeah, it's a little bit less these days.
That's a lot.
That's still a lot.
Yeah.
When you're doing my thing, you just shut up and pay.
Okay. All right. Ooh, he's punchy today.
I've got to be, or else you just throw me under the bus.
Come on, you're on the bus. Keep going.
Yeah. So when you're pulling a set of whiskies together, what's sort of the process? Obviously, you have someone out there collecting the different samples, but then you sit around a room and taste them, and then sort of go through a list of knocking off the ones that you're not too sure about, or?
Yeah, we've been buying whiskey for a good few years now, and so we have a register of casks that we have in, of what we've got available to pull from, and we have these themes that we're thinking ahead of what we're going to be doing over the next couple of releases. More than 4 to 5 releases ahead that we're trying to think ahead and then start buying whiskey in from that. Wow. Generally, it's either samples being sent. So we'd request samples from a distiller, and they'd send a load of samples, and then we'd taste them and say, yeah, this one, and this one, and maybe not that one. Generally, we say, yeah, we'll take them all, and then they come back to us and says, oh, I wish we'd sent you more.
Yeah.
We were taking just about everything. There's obviously, if there's something that's not right for boutique, we won't take it. Simple as that. Just when we have, we have had to turn a few distillers down in the past. So okay, not quite at the moment.
So what are you sort of looking for in your whiskies?
Well, we have these themes that we go through now. We had a world series, we had a rye series, we've had a wine cask series where we're looking for wine cask finishes, and then we go to a country. The American whiskies, where we're just looking to. We had a cask buyer out in the States a little while ago, and still does a little bit of part-time work for us, Wingo. We used to, like you've just been thrown under the bus. We used to have this thing on our podcast called Wake Up Wingo. Because we would just call him.
Watch that, Todd. You might get some inspiration.
we used to call him in the middle of our podcast and wake him up. We knew it'd be 5 o'clock in the morning, and we'd wake him up, and he'd answer the phone, and what? And then we'd just ask him some really serious questions, and he would try and think on his feet, and it's just one of my favourite parts of the podcast, waking up Wingo. So what are we looking for? Whiskies on a theme, basically. Our next one is, and we did a Boutique-y Records series a little while ago, where we just wanted to make all of our labels look a little like not record sleeves, but musical styles. So one that looked like a mixtape. I loved those labels. A mixtape. We did one sort of like we did a Daluan of an old 78 style of record. We streaming series. So if you, it's on there. It's a little while ago. The Boutique-y Records. There was a link to. I'm just going to drop it in. Can I drop the link in?
You can, I believe.
Where can I? I can only.
Put it into the private chat, and we'll move it over into the comments for everyone to have a look at home.
So that was we just bought a collection of whiskies, and that was all Scotch whiskies. But we just decided that we wanted to mess around with the labels slightly different to sell it on the art as opposed to. And that's what's coming up next. We've got a collection of whiskies that we put to a theme.
Here it comes. I'm getting there, people. I'm sorry. It's
quicker than Crafty would do it. So,
oh my god, I hit paste rather than copy.
That's your porn folder. What's your porn folder doing?
What? You don't want your pictures getting out?
Hey, this is an adult podcast, all right?
Yes.
I'm going to have to mark it explicit on the iTunes listing.
We have a theme, and then we try and find the whiskies to fit the theme. Sometimes we have the whiskies, and then we try and fit a theme around that. That's the way we're working through on there. But we have these ideas of what we want.
We're just looking at the mixtape one. Yeah,
they're wicked.
Hey, you got to have an art gallery. Seriously, you got to have an exhibition. You must. Are you going to do an exhibition with the art?
We haven't. No, we've never done an exhibition with the art. Yeah.
Oh, you should do that. Take it on tour, man.
We did
bring it to Australia.
We did get some records. We did get some record sleeves made of sort of these artworks. Proper records.
You just had a comment. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Oh, show us. Let's have a look. Bring that up again, Dave.
So we had some 12-inch sleeves made.
Oh, that's awesome. Super cool.
And then on the back, all the whiskies.
There you go.
So then you just need to do a special printing of an episode of the podcast on a vinyl in a sleeve.
Yeah.
Bam, you don't need to do this anymore. You've got enough money to retire on.
That was a really good I really love that series of
I can imagine. Speaking of that, you've got your own podcast, haven't you?
Well, we put it on hold for a little while as we've been a little bit busy. So yeah, the Uncorked podcast is still up there, and we still have people listening, but we haven't recorded one for a long time, and we need to get back to it. But it has been a little bit busy recently. Both Sam and I have taken on a little bit more responsibility over the couple of years, doing other things, not just for Boutique-y, but for all the other things around, all the Darkness brands, the Atom brands.
Oh, right. Okay. Right. So yeah, of course you've got the other brands still. Yeah. Okay. That's, man, you are busy. You are very, very busy.
Yeah. It's been a bit of busy time, and we Sam and I, just for the people behind the mics, and we had other people that edited it and put it together, and just that's the thing that we don't have time, is putting the editing and getting the guests. Sometimes we can get the guests in, but it's been a bit of a.
What's this editing?
That's because they're not as professional as us, and they had to edit out things.
Whereas we can do it in one take. There's no editing.
Every time.
And they pay people, I'm sure.
Yeah, Pete and I. Pete is Boutique-y Pete and Boutique-y Dave. Pete is the rum guy, and we do these little videos with the complete series, or we do something called Tots and Drams, which is just us shooting a shit, basically. Which you can find on the Boutique-y YouTube channel. So there's lots of stuff on there of us messing around, and you might find some podcasts on there, but certainly you will find Pete and I talking through the whole series, which is a lot of fun, of all these different releases where we taste them, and I like to put them in front of him and he tastes them blind, and you can watch his face. It's, oh, no, I wasn't expecting that. And I do exactly the same with his rums. So that's always a lot of fun working with him, taking an hour or so just to go through a complete series and talk about each of the whiskies and rums, and introduce them to each other, which then we use for us, the sales team, watch them basically, rather than sit there and joining us for a couple of hours during the day.
Very, very cool.
There's a thought for us.
Yeah.
We could shoot the shit over some Tots and Drams one day.
We'll have to do that. And look, they've got 176 subscribers on their YouTube. That's so many more than us.
That's not a lot.
Right, because we've only got 6.
I got to tell you a story. You'll love this, right? So it was my daughter's birthday, her 13th birthday party last week, right? And I had to take her and her friends out to an amusement thing. That was all cool. And we're talking about TikTok. And I've got a TikTok. I just sort of dabble on it, just try out different things, right? And so one of them, Anira, and she's quite a quiet little girl, right? And I said, Anira, how's your TikTok going? She goes, fine. And I go, well, I'm up to almost 300, I think it is. And I go, how much are you? And she goes, 78,000. she had one video, which apparently one TikToker went up 4 million.
Holy shit.
Wow.
And she just creates these little animated things, and it's like,
oh wow,
you want to share your followers with me? It's like, no.
I can't.
And I said I'll follow her, and she said, I blocked you.
I can't cope with TikTok.
It's a weird one. It's a weird one, TikTok. There's some really cool stuff, but there's some really weird stuff as well.
You can't bring it up on mute either. As soon as it comes on full blast. I wear hearing aids, and they're Bluetooth, and they're connected to the phone. So as soon as you click on TikTok, all of a sudden it's bang in my ears, and I've just deleted it.
Oh God. Yeah, no, and it's always loud, obnoxious, and anything with anything that has a laugh track behind it is that one awful laugh.
Yeah,
one awful canned laugh.
Yeah,
that just grates.
Yeah, grates me as well. I can't.
What I do like, do you remember the old TV series Whose Line Is It Anyway?
Yes.
It's an American improvisation show.
Yeah.
Absolutely brilliant. So there's a lot of old.
There are
a lot of old episodes.
Yes.
And they're only like a minute or so, but every time I watch them, a bit of wee escapes every time.
Can't you just find them on YouTube? It's much easier, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's got more control too.
And when you pay for the subscription, you don't get the ads.
So
we got,
going back
we got another question out of the audience.
Oh, what is it?
Do you do an Islay series?
We haven't got an Isla series. No, not as a boutique series. We haven't got an Isla. I mean, it's really difficult.
Hard to do.
It's really hard at the moment to get Isla whiskies. We have got some lovely Isla whiskies still in the warehouse, which we will be bringing out under Boutique-y soon, I think. We will be having a series which will explore that sort of style of whiskey, but it would be from whiskies not just from Isla, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So how much do you whiskey, or how many casks do you reckon you've got in storage waiting to go?
Crikey, that's a difficult question. Yeah, I mean it's a constantly moving thing that we've got going. That's for sure. There must be several hundred of them. Yeah.
Wow. And is there something that you've been sitting on?
Yes, some of it we do. We buy it and sit on it for a series. It takes a long time to get whiskey across from Australia and from all these different distilleries, and to bring them all together to grab a collection together. So some of it will be sitting in in IBCs, so inert containers. Some of it we will have in wood. Some of it is shipped in wood. Some of it's shipped in inert containers, basically jerry cans or something like that. Yeah. That's how it happens. So we don't age it over here, and certainly some of it we can't. All of our whiskey now is bottled in Scotland. Everything. So we have a warehouse and a bottling line up in Edinburgh. Right. So all of the whiskey lines are done there. It always had to be. I mean, certainly for Scotch, always had to be, and we've always bottled. Even Master of Malt's Little Drink by the Drams, they've always been bottled in Scotland. We have control over that now. That's all in house.
Nice.
When I first joined, we didn't. We were using subcontractors to bottle our. Like a lot of independent bottlers, they have to use subbies to bottle their own whiskies, and so you have no control of when you're going to be pulled in. So that was always something that we didn't like, because we weren't able to control when we were going to release a series, because we were at the back of a queue of other independent bottlers. So that's why we opened our own bottling line warehouse facility, and we have a facility up there which we're allowed to store casks. So we've got racks in there for casks, so we can age them, we can blend them, we can finish them, which is something that we weren't able to do when we first started 10 years ago. So that's fairly new. But yes, we weren't blending, but we are blenders now, because we do put things together. The blends that we put out, not all of them, we do buy blends. I mean, we get offered blends that have been put together over the years from different companies that come into line, and then that's not what we want to do anymore, and these sort of casks come available. And certainly when you're looking for companies that change hands, that's when all these sort of casks come available. When distilleries change hands, when companies change hands, from one to another, all of a sudden there's a little market going on, but not so much these days.
Yeah, it's pretty tight. I got an experience I'll share. So I've got I think it's about 18% stake in a Bruichladdich Port Charlotte cask, which is actually 18, even 19 years old. And we're bottling it as we speak, and we've had to go through brokers. And I got an email today saying, "Yeah, it's in the queue. We'll let you know." It's like, okay, you got our whiskey when? But the cool thing about it, or maybe cool, we'll find out. Before Remy took over Bruichladdich, I got this cask, and I said I wanted the wood if that was possible, because I wanted to bring it to Australia and just basically do a toast and then put it into my distillery, because I have such a connection to Bruichladdich. I've got a shrine in my little distillery to Bruichladdich. Anyway, so about 2 years ago, I tried to have conversations with Bruichladdich and saying, right, I'm getting close. Can I secure the wood to bring it back to Australia? And it was corporate says no. So I'm hoping someone will throw it in the back of a Volvo. She knows who I'm talking about.
Or he.
Or what?
Or he.
Or yeah. I really want the wood. It's for me, it sort of completes a story. The reason I do what I do now is because of Brooke Laddie. That's where it all started with me.
Right.
So do you have, with all the, it must be thousands upon thousands of whiskies that you've tried by now.
Yeah.
Is there a unicorn for you? Something that you would love, that you want, that you desperately need to try, but have not been able to do it?
No, I don't think so. I've been really fortunate. I mean, always when I'm asked what's my favorite whiskey, I'll always say usually the next one. Because it is just a drink. And I have been really fortunate, as a whiskey blogger back in the day. I was invited to a lot of launches, so I was able to taste some amazing old whiskies. Unicorn whiskies, probably, I would say what I'd love to try is some of the old American rye whiskies, old Monongahela rye. That would be kind of cool to have some of that from the late 1800s.
Wow. Yeah.
Now that's all those little distilleries. That would be kind of cool, but unlikely to happen. Yeah, I certainly of old scotches, I was very fortunate. I was invited to lots of those launches from people like Gordon MacPhail when they did the 75-year-old Mortlach. That was lovely. That was absolutely just, it wasn't as woody as I thought it was going to be. I must admit, I thought I was going to be eating pencils. It wasn't. It was really rather delicious, and the smell was superb. Yeah, unicorn whiskies. No, I don't think I really have anything apart from something way back in history. Way back in history, it would have been some of those older style of whiskies completely that aren't really made today. That maybe. There were distilleries trying to bring that back. We just launched some Dad's Hat Rye, which is Pennsylvania rye, which is trying to recreate that style.
Yeah.
But this is going back from the old 3-chamber stills and things like that, which would be kind of cool. And I think there's one being built out there now, one of those old 3-chamber stills that used to distill that Pennsylvania rye. So that would be really something I'd like to try as
It's just talking to Spirits of French Lick.
Alan Bishop
talking about
3-chamber stills.
3-chamber stills.
And Leopold Brothers, Todd Leopold.
That's the ones, yeah.
Yep, he's resurrected the 3-chamber and gone back to an old varietal rye, a Bruzy rye. I've tasted it. It's a powerhouse whiskey. It's full of flavor and the grain is there. So the one in Pennsylvania, is that they're building a 3-chamber still as well, are they? Or they've got one?
No, they haven't. But I've just been, the Leopold Brothers. I remember reading about that, and I remember reading something on the when I was researching rye whiskey for American whiskey history for a podcast that we did when we released our first rye series. We released a collection of 9 rye whiskies in one hit, which is pretty brave.
Yeah,
to do. And I did get a chance at that time to visit a number of distilleries upstate New York, and one little distillery called Copper Sea, which I fell in love with. The distillery, the place, and the whiskey. Direct fired stills, just a little tiny farm distillery. Maltings on the floor in one barn. They built everything themselves. New make spirit just falling off into milk churns. They're the cuts. They're the heads. Move the milk churn. New make spirit on the floor, next churn underneath. Yeah. Direct fire right underneath gas rings. Crashing around. Just dip your finger in. Just like stepping back in time.
Stepping back in time.
Yeah. And they did a green malt whiskey.
Oh yeah.
So they didn't, they malt the grain.
They don't kill it.
Oh. Right.
Yeah, it's just green malt's just steeped, isn't it? It's not kilned. Is that from memory?
Yeah, they don't kiln it. It's straight from malting, it goes into industrial mincers. Just a nightmare. But the whiskey, it's
you got to move real quickly with it too.
Yeah.
I'll bet it'll start to turn.
Start to turn. That's the word.
And
that's a good segue, and I'm going to do the segue. So American trips. So
or what we like to call
financing American trips. So for those that don't know, Aussie Craft Distillers Shooting the Shits, we got exclusive rights for Jim McEwen's biography written by Udo.
Oh yeah.
Awesome book, stunning book. So we've actually just brought in 36 books into the country, and we've got 250 on the way. So we're going to be selling it to every distiller. We're going to be selling it to every whiskey aficionado and every wannabe distiller.
That's where you get it. On the website.
On the website. That's where you get it.
shootingtheshit.com.au. There's a big orange button saying pre-order now.
Which is actually order now.
Yeah.
Oh, it is.
It is now.
Yeah, we can change the order.
We can.
So we have to speak to our website.
There's order now until we get through the first 36, and then it will be pre-order for the...
Yeah.
Shouldn't it be a green button now, though?
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be a green button.
Yeah. Just go shits and giggles blue.
Yep.
So
make it red just to pop with everyone.
This is also a charity cause because this is going to fund.
We can't call it a charity. We're not registered.
Oh, we're not registered. Okay. This is to fund our US trip next year and potentially Ireland as well to Waterford. So the Todd, Luke, and myself, please, we need your help so we can go to the US. We can do our research. We can go and see Todd Leopold. We can get the bottle of 3 Chamber whiskey he's promised me for 2 years. So we can learn about 3 Chambers. We can learn about Pennsylvania rye. We can learn about New York style rye.
It is. All that aside, it's a really good read. As you can see, it's a substantial book.
Nope. Oh, it is.
There's more than 2 words on the page.
You want one?
Of course I want one.
All right, Todd.
It's not full of pictures. It's a really good, easy read, isn't it, Crafty?
The cool thing about it is if you know Jim McEwen and you've heard Jim McEwen speak, when you read this book, you hear his words and it puts a little smile on your face. A bit like a boutique-y bottle of whiskey puts a smile on your face.
Look at that.
Mark Rainier.
Classic book. Yeah.
Oh, no, Jim McEwen. Geez, it looked like Mark Rainier on the shop. Speaking of that, going back to best whiskey. We had a very fortunate experience with Waterford Distillery coming to Australia, and I heard you say, Dave, that you're getting over to Ireland in the not too distant future.
Yeah, 2 weeks.
Yeah, go and see. Do you know Ned Gahan?
You know Ned. I'm going. Yeah, and Ian. I know Ian as well.
Oh, cool. So the Waterford, the Hunter for me. The Hunter variety whiskey is my favorite whiskey of the year so far. It is such an intriguing whiskey. Yeah. It's hard to describe. It's like the aromatics are very similar to barley in a field.
And so for those that don't know what the Hunter is, what's the base grain?
It's an old varietal of barley that Waterford resurrected from a seed bank, literally a handful of seed.
Yeah, heritage grains,
and planted it, and then managed to get enough to actually make some whiskey. So, and they're going further with Hunter. It's going to go into, they're going to do organic with it down the track, and they'll do biodynamic. Waterford for me, is one of the most exciting distilleries on the planet.
Yeah, I'm definitely stopping into them. And the other one that's not far from them is called Blackwater.
Oh yeah.
Blackwater Distillers, and they've been making some green malt as well over there, which I'm going to go and see them too. So what's that's one of the ones I want. Yeah, it's a bit of a busman's holiday. This is
fully tax deductible.
But, no, I going over there. So Peter Mulryan, he's written a few books on Irish whiskey.
Oh yeah.
So Pete's been the Blackwater distiller. So he's Blackwater Distillery. It's well worth checking out. They've been doing some malt. I've been talking to him about green malt, and I want to go and see them. Lovely little tiny distillery. But yeah, trying some old Irish styles, really shaking the tree, challenging the current Irish whiskey directive, which I think they should. And I'm really hoping that this new wave of English whiskey really shakes the tree. I don't want them to be trying to be, tie the rules up and be Scotch whiskey. I really want them to be innovative and try different things. We've been maturing whiskey in casks for a long time, but you need a cooper. You need those skills. So, those trees, why can't we do something different? We bottled some whiskey from a little distillery in Bristol, an English whiskey where we couldn't call it whiskey because it's only 40 days old.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And it has been matured in a tank, in an IBC, with charred oak spindles suspended.
Yep.
How cool is that? I mean, that is really cool. And it's got a colour and it's got a flavour and it's not new make spirit. But why shouldn't new make spirit be called whiskey?
Oh, okay.
Oh.
All right. Okay. Here we go.
Now we're
going to go for another
Now
round.
we're going to release the Kraken.
Ding, 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 ding. Okay, so in Australia, accelerated maturation spirit, or as we call it here, malt spirit, is a legitimate category, and it's really exciting. It's really innovative. There's some guys doing some really cool things with natural Australian hardwoods, which is really exciting. However, the terminology, the name single malt is being used, and it's causing a ruckus because single malt is basically single malt whiskey. If you do a Google search, type in single malt, it's single malt whiskey. If you do the man on the street, it's single malt whiskey. If you do a pub test, so there's a number of distillers, a sizable number of Australian whiskey distillers that are basically taking the position. It's cool, it's innovative, and that's what Australia's all about. Go for it, but stay in your lane. It ain't single malt, so therefore it ain't single malt whiskey. So we're not traditionalists, but
it's a whiskey. If it's made with that grain, and distilled, it's still a whiskey. I mean, in the old days,
not under a 120-year-old legislation. If it looks like whiskey, smells like whiskey, tastes like whiskey, it has to be 2 years in wood. Doesn't even have to be oak. Just
when
2
was
years
2 years
in
brought in for you?
When?
Yeah.
120 years ago, something.
Okay, so in the UK, it was 1915 was the Immature Spirits Act.
Yep.
So that's when it was originally 2 years and then went to 3 years and then went to 40%. So that's before that, it was anything goes. American whiskey was mostly off the still.
Yeah.
And whiskey, it still is whiskey straight off the still in America. And I think, it should be. The same as rum is rum when it comes off the still and is either aged rum or unaged rum. And I think whiskey should be the same. And single malt, if it's 100% malted barley in small batches in pot stills, that's the definition of single malt to me.
Oh, we've got to get them on out. We're going to have a debate in Australia. We're a proper full-on debate, and it's going to be for the affirmative and for the negative. So you can we'll get you on the Zoom session.
I want English whiskey to challenge that 1915 Spirits Act. I mean,
same.
I really want them to challenge it. Why should we call
I think
spirit?
It's not about the challenging the ability to make it or the innovation. The uproar is primarily around what does the customer expect? What are they when they're looking at two bottles on a shelf? One that is a single malt from a distiller that's had it sitting there in their bond store for at least 2 years. They've done it. It's done the time. They've waited, and now it's ready.
Yep.
And they've called it a single malt whiskey because that's by definition what it is.
Yeah.
Then you've got somebody else who's come along and used a pressure system or whatever it is to do the accelerated aging in 2 weeks, sitting on the same shelf.
Old spirit.
Sorry,
it's a 2 week. It's a whiskey.
2 week old.
That's it.
Yeah.
It's a whiskey.
But the consumer. So the question that's going around in the industry, and I'm in this camp, is Whiskey Brand Australia, right? We have to protect Whiskey Brand Australia, right? So it's got to be recognizable. If someone picks up something and it's very young, right, and they taste it and go, oh, is that what Australian whiskey is? Right, because it sits on the shelf as single malt, right?
Aye.
And it's not a representation of what Australian whiskey is, the diversity of Australian whiskey. So you could have experiences where people go, it's not for me, right? It doesn't taste like what I associate whiskey to be, right? And so they move on, they move back to Scotch, or they move on to American or whatever. So what we're saying is we do need rules and regulations to define what Australian whiskey is, but absolutely no stifling of creativity or creation, because we're very, very innovative. That's our technical, our competitive
we're more pushing for it to be more transparent, though.
Yeah, that's it. It's transparent.
Put it on your label that you've got a 2-week-old whiskey.
Yes, absolutely. It should have the age.
So that Joe Average Punter goes into the store, he sees that it's 2-week-old whiskey, and he buys it. That's his choice, but he's buying it knowing that that's what it is.
Yeah,
that's illegal. If it smells like, looks like, tastes like whiskey, and
I agree. Yeah. I hear you. I agree with that.
So we've still got the legislation we've got to comply with, but there is a push, Dave, for Australia to go to 3 years, particularly if they're trying to compete in the EU. The EU's pushing back, which is interesting. Oh, one thing before it jumps out of my head, this is something which I find very, very concerning. So the Irish government is pushing to have on their labels that alcohol causes cancer. Alcohol is carcinogenic, causes cancer. Now, apparently, the EU is pushing back on Ireland on this. Sorry?
Everything's carcinogenic and causes cancer.
Exactly. But the EU is pushing back on it, right? But this is a very slippery slope. I was involved in my former life in food packaging, and a part of the portfolio I was involved in was cigarette packaging, and I hated it, right? But I saw how quickly we went from cigarette packaging and advertising to diseased lungs and cut up hearts and that on the actual packaging, right? So now this is out in the open in Ireland and the EU. This is really concerning, and we're talking about it in Australia because we have so little real estate to play with bottles, right? And if you take your design, if you start to lose half your label to a diseased lung or something like that,
well, you're probably going to get a diseased lung if you're inhaling. Whiskey.
True. But are you? What's your take on that? It's the strong anti-alcohol lobby. What's happening over your side of the world in that regard? Are you seeing anything like that?
Yeah, well, I'm hearing stuff certainly on social media. They're becoming the first country in the world, aren't they, to mandate health labeling on all alcoholic drinks. So that's wine. Yeah. And so some companies are saying, okay, we won't ship to Ireland anymore. So I think the choice is going to go up, or the price is going to go up. So calorie content, grams of alcohol, risk of cancer and liver disease, and dangers of drinking while pregnant. I think we have to have that on our labeling now. I think we have a little symbol that. We have a little tiny symbol on the bottom there of a that's the one.
Lady. Yeah, we've got
one we have to do now.
Thankfully,
I would like to see all whiskey labelled that it says if it's been coloured or not.
Yeah.
I think E150 should be listed as an ingredient. I think all whiskey should have that on it.
Yep.
Absolutely. It should be in as large letters as the ABV, not in minuscule letter that I need to use my little magnifying glass to look at, my little spyglass, because that really annoys me. I think all whiskey should be labelled like that.
Yeah.
As for the other stuff, every car needs a label on it. Don't stand in front of this car, you get run over. Surely. Don't go outside, it's dangerous out there. Don't stand under the sunshine.
Warning, sun is carcinogenic.
Do not go out in daylight unless you're covered from head to toe.
Oh, well, no, by the way, you're suffering from vitamin D now, so
this apple. Eat this apple at your own risk.
Yeah.
100% agree, mate. 100% agree. It's I just went through this with, I was saying off air, I just went through this with the local alcohol advertising thing, right? And I got pinged for one of my labels because colours appeal to minors, right? And my counter argument to that was, so bright colours appeal to minors. Is it the sole domain of minors that like bright colours? No, adults like colours, right? Adults like colours.
There's us all in black t-shirts tonight.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, 100%.
We've got colour where it matters.
No, they're very slimming. They're very slimming. Very
Yeah.
slimming.
That's what it is. Yes.
Yeah, but my argument was, colours are not the domain of just minors, right? Adults like bright colours, and then I cited a number of artists like Matisse, Gauguin, Andy Warhol, you name it, right? And different schools of art. And then you say, well, hang on a sec. If you're saying that colour appeals to minors, right? Okay. But what colours are you talking about? Where's the specifics? Is 032 Pantone 032 red? Is that a problem?
I reckon we should just boycott nature.
I think we've been doing that since the Industrial Revolution, really, and that's
out of control.
Part of our problem.
The one that got me with the alcohol advertising, there's a company, a beer company called White Rabbit, right? So their logo is a rabbit, right? And they released the chocolate stout, and they got pinged because of a bunny rabbit and chocolate, and it appeals to minors.
Yeah,
well,
we have.
They're appealing to all those kids that love Alice in Wonderland and a good Alice trip.
We have the Portman group over here that looks at, it's sort of a voluntary code, and it looks at our labeling. That's why we don't call our labels cartoon; they're graphic novel style labels. So the cartoons, we say graphic novel, and we've only changed 3, 2 because of the Portman group, because they were quite. There was 2. One was our first Tobermory album label. We did 2 Tobermory labels that we had to that looked like Tobermory Harbour, and there is a children's TV program really for the under 5s, preschoolers, called Balamory, which is
they do have the worst drinking habit though, really.
Yeah,
they're always drinking.
Yeah, all these preschoolers going into specialist whiskey shops. I know. So that one we changed, and the other one we changed was Tomor. We only had one iteration of we had a sort of a Captain Pugwash style label because Tomor was sort of was
because that particular cartoon ticks all the boxes for political correctness, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah. We had a sort of a Tomor distillery as a pirate ship because it was Long John. It was the home of Long John, wasn't it?
Seaman Staines.
So they were the 2 that we had. And the other one we changed was really because the distillery called us up and said, you wouldn't mind changing that because we don't really like that one. And so we did. Yeah. And that was our Tomatin label. They didn't like our tomatoes on, Tomatin looks like a tin of tomatoes. It was just shockingly bad plum. And they just asked us nicely, would you mind changing that? Yeah, we can do that. That's not a problem. Yeah, we'll do that. Yeah, so we did a more respectful label, especially when we had a 36-year-old Tomatin to bottle. I thought maybe on the label probably wasn't the right thing for a 36-year-old label. So we changed that to a bit more respectful label.
I'm going to have to go and find that now.
There was a New Zealand gin company. I can't remember the sequence of them, but they released a gin which was called Not Another Fucking Gin. And they got into Australia. And then a year later, they released another gin. What was it called? It was like, What Again? Or something like that. It was a whole series of...
That was the whole Fuck 2022.
Yeah, it was a Fuck 2022 thing. But it was
Fuck
like
2020.
Yeah, Fuck 2020.
I'm just going to upload what I think is the the tomatin one.
Oh,
There's a lot of tomatoes on that still.
Tommy Tomato. There it is. Yeah.
That's the one you had to pull, is it, or is that the one that you went with?
That was the earlier one. That went for 3 batches, I think, with an 11-year-old and 2 21-year-olds.
That's so cool. It's so not Scotch. It's so not Scotch. Going back to your comment about caramel, right? I find it fascinating. We have a bit of a joke, some of us. You go, the Scotch, they're all about tradition, right? Right. So it's the barley, right? It's the casks, it's the water, and it's the caramel. And it's like it just doesn't gel. Oh.
You're doing it again. You're doing it again.
I'll go out of here.
Look.
What happened? It's collapsed. Oh, and on that note, just like to make special mention to 60 Hertz, because 60 Hertz, a lot of commentary tonight, and I think he's, or whoever they are new to the podcast.
In New Zealand. They've been on before. We've seen them.
They've been on before. You just don't see the comments very often, do you?
Oh, is that what it is? Because I'm too busy trying to look at the camera.
Trying to find the camera.
Sorry, 60 Hertz, for being one of our most loyal supporters.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, guys. Sorry.
Has never known you before. So.
All right. Well, apologies. We'll send you out to throw Todd under the bus, stress bus, when we get it.
Eventually.
And speaking of that, before we go much further, so can you put that on? So Whiskey on the Murray, which is a festival coming up in Corowa, so down on the border of New South Wales and Victoria.
That's not going to work.
We go up. So a number of, so it's a Corowa distillery.
There's 1 or 2 distillers.
1 or 2 distillers. So we're all going.
Some of them good.
Yep, some of them are good. And we're going there just to party hard with our fellow distiller mates. And the cooperage, Murray River Cooperage, is going to be opening. They're going to flame barrels. It's going to be live music. It's going to be food. Dean from
And what are those dates again?
28th and 29th of July. And with a bit of luck,
and those coming from Sydney can do what?
They can get on the Aussie Craft Distillers Shooting the Shit collab bus with Corowa Distillery. We're laying on a big bus, hopefully. So we'll take them down on a Friday, bring them back on a Sunday. It will be a whiskey extravaganza.
And when I'm told about this, I will put it on the website.
Oh, that'd be a good move, wouldn't it? And on that note,
hang on. We actually have sponsors now, don't we?
Yeah, we're going to go through our sponsors, Dave. Settle in.
Yep.
We got a few now.
We do. We've got a few. And they're all awesome. Every single one.
If you send me a hat, I will wear them. Because someone once told me that wearing my cowboy hat limits me.
Oh, really?
And they've got no idea.
Dave's got something there. Look,
hold on, let me.
What's Dave got?
Oh,
Oi.
sharp.
Oi.
I've got hats all around the room. You might be able to see a few of them on the back there.
Oh yeah. Okay, up on the wall there. Now that you say it.
Oh yeah, look at that.
Oh yeah.
You've got hats like Ben Osborne has.
Oh wow!
Cowboy
there
boots.
you go.
That's the Ben Osborne hat there.
Here we go.
Speaking of hats,
the Uncorked Cowboy's back.
That's cool.
That's awesome.
That's cool.
I'd love to be able to pull off a hat like that. My head just looks. It just looks shit. Anyway, let's go to our sponsor.
All right, walk through them.
Starting from one side of the top, depending on which way you're facing, Voyager Craft Malt. Without them, Crafty
wouldn't exist.
It would be just a figment of our imagination.
It would be a very watery whiskey.
It would be, yeah.
And life would be a lot easier.
Not sure it would be.
For you guys.
Oh, without you, but them life would be very hard.
Life would be very hard.
We would not have many of the things that we love and enjoy.
They are partners in more ways than one. Absolutely. Fantastic malts, fantastic guys.
One could say they are almost the backbone of the Australian whiskey industry.
We're getting there. Yeah.
One of the bigger
And
ones.
brewers.
Yeah,
absolutely. And we're going to get them on at some stage. We're doing a terroir session with
17th of
Mark
August.
Rainier.
Watch the space.
Yep, Mark Rainier from Waterford and Stu Whitecross from Voyager Craft Malt about whiskey terroir, and that is going to be a deep, deep dive.
That would be very cool.
Yeah.
Wine Oak Cooperage. The little person in a dress. It's not a dress. It's an apron.
He'll thump you. Next time he
working on
sees you, he'll thump
If
you.
it wasn't for him, our spirit would be all over the floor, even more so than it is.
Yes, Wine Oak, great providers of casks and support.
Awesome supporters.
A mentor of mine, and without Youngie, there wouldn't be Craftworks. Actually, there's a bit of a theme here.
There is a theme here. You're literally just roping in as sponsors everybody that you can't live without, and getting money out of them to replace the money that you've spent.
Well, we need more beer
them.
Coasters, so we've got to fund our beer coaster. Have it
We
somehow.
do need more beer coasters, yes.
Yep.
A new sponsor, Mogwai Labs. All things yeasty.
Yeah.
Yeasty goodness.
Liquid cultured yeast. Come out and set yeast traps and work out your yeast profile and basically create your own yeast, a specific strain of yeast. So Josh from Mogwai, we're getting him on in a while. Looking forward to it. Deep dive on yeast. That'll be fun.
Yeasty business. And once you've used your Voyager Craft malt and put it in, fermented it with your Mogwai Labs yeast, and then put it into a Youngie barrel, you then need a bottle to put it in.
I need a bottle.
You need a bottle.
Oh, a bottle. And where do I get my bottles from?
From Saverglass.
Saverglass. One of the great suppliers of glassware in Australia. A lot of whiskey distillers, a lot of spirits distillers in general using Saverglass. Yeah.
And if you've done all of those things and put your you've done a barrel aged gin.
Oh, yep.
And put it in.
Or you don't. After doing all those things, you decide you don't really like whiskey.
Yeah, well, or a barrel-aged gin. Let's go that way and not do the dislike. Then you might even share it with the Australian Gin Appreciation
Society.
The Gin
Appreciation Society. And what is
How's
the Gin
that for a fucking tie-in?
Yeah, and it's an AGAS. I don't know. A gas. It's a gas. Yeah, it's a gas.
Okay.
Yep.
It is a Facebook group, and it's huge, and it is for all the people who love the juniper stuff.
As do we.
And we still haven't tried the Ginski, actually.
Oh, yeah, go try the Ginski.
Go try the Ginski.
Yeah.
We'll do that later.
Yep.
So thank you very much to all of our sponsors. We do really appreciate it. They do help to keep the lights on, so to speak. Cool. Dave.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Oh,
Thank you so much for your time. Excellent.
And
that's what we aim for.
I knew it's like Graham Norton's with more alcohol. That's what I go for.
And much less money.
What could go wrong?
Yeah, what could possibly go wrong? Thank you all. Thank you all for tuning in. I will.
That sounds like something we actually need penicillin for. STS.
STS. Yeah.
We got our own acronym.
Yeah. I'm sure there's a treatment for that.
Yeah.
It's called more whiskey.
More whiskey. Dave, thank you very much. We love your bottles. We love your brand. Thank you so much for joining us and taking the time out of your very busy schedule to have a chat with us.
It's been a lot
in the
of fun.
middle of the day, you pisshead.
Yeah. It's all downhill from here.
Yes.
All downhill from now. Yeah.
Thank you all. Have a good evening, and we will catch you next week with
don't look at me.
With we've got Brad.
Oh, Brad Wright.
From
Brad Wright, Single Malt Whiskey Club and Rum Tribe, and with our guest presenters. So we rotate presenters, Dave, because we're going from a fortnightly to a weekly format now.
So we're keeping the presenter's secret for Brad, so he's a bit shocked, just in case he's listening.
What shock?
That he's not talking to us. He'll get on and go, "What the fuck is this?"
You dumped me on the B team.
Looking at them, I was expecting them to look like.
What, Brad? No, it's not a B team, mate. Don't think of it like that. It's not like that.
I can tell you now, it is not the B team.
It's not the B team. It's actually the A+ team.
It's the A+.
So much better than we are.
They might actually talk about some stuff.
Maybe. But yeah. it might be worth listening to.
Yeah, we might chime in.
So thank you again. Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening, and we'll catch you next week. Bye.
Stay on, Dave.
Right.